Hello everybody, Evidence for You here. I joined Bible Thumping Wingnut on his channel today and I got the chance to talk to Matt Slick. I brought up the topic about answered prayers and asked Matt how he can reconcile that God apparently thinks it's better to help a person to find his car keys than pay any attention at all to 16,000 children dying from starvation every single day. Even more poor babies die every day if you count those with diarrhea from unclean water, malaria, and other common diseases in the undeveloped countries. Most of these grieving parents are Christians, and all they can do besides to watch their children slowly languish is to pray to God, but He doesn't answer. Matt Slick tried to sidetrack the conversation, of course. He talked for 5 minutes non-stop, making all kinds of assertions about me and asked several questions I never got the chance to answer to. I must admit I was a bit amazed when Matt's response to this fact was, "So what?" Matt Slick is the president and founder of the Christian Apologetics and Research Ministry. He is also a young earth creationist. That is, he takes his preferred human-made religious book literally and denies, among other things, the scientifically proven age of the earth and biological evolution solely because of faith. The statement, "so what?" is not critical thinking or skepticism. So what is gullibility and admission of defeat. Finally, I got him to admit that one car key is less valuable than, say, 20,000 children per day. Of course, he immediately jumped to the conclusion that I have no basis to stand on, making the same judgment. If you ignore my English in the Hangout, I think I did quite well. But I will let you decide. Make a video response or tell me in the comment section down below. Oh, one more thing. If you do leave a comment, be sure to have reply turned on. Dialogue is better than monologue, don't you think? Here comes the part of the Hangout where I talk to Matt Slick.
Our next, I don't know what to call them because they're not calling in. Our next guest, I believe, is a non-believer, pretty sure. And their YouTube channel is, I'll just let you introduce yourself, sir. Let me turn your microphone up. There you go.
Okay, do you hear me?
There you go. Yep.
Yeah, okay. My name is Niklas, and my YouTube name is Evidence for You. I live in Sweden. So there might be some kind of language barrier here, but I try to do my best. Is it Matt Slick I'm talking to?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you do, sir?
Doing fine. How are you?
Yeah, good. Bible think Tim, if you allow me to call him that, it's easier to pronounce. Tim was right. I do not believe in God, and I have some questions about you regarding.
Sure.
Regarding prayers, if you're up to it.
Sure.
Yeah. As I understand, most believe one of the best evidence for believing in a particular God is answered prayers. I've heard this from numerous sources. I think it's right. Can you agree with that, or?
Well, when someone says it's one of the best evidences for God's existence, answered prayer, I can't agree that is one of the best. It's too subjective a statement.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is a confirmation, though it might be confirmation biased, but it is a confirmation that if you ask for something and it happens, it's a confirmation that your God exists. So
I would say that it is an evidence, a form of evidence, but the evidence needs to be interpreted and examined.
Yeah. Okay, fair. But I understand that you believe in one God. Am I right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know you at all, so I hope you give me
right. No problem, man.
Which God do you believe in?
The only true God.
Yes, I understand, but I don't have no idea which God you believe in. So
The one of Christianity.
okay, Christianity, good. So if Christians pray to the Christian God, of course, no use to pray to Zeus, right? And the things come true, and that confirms their belief in God, and a Muslim prays to his God, and the things he prays for comes true. Which one are I am supposed to trust?
The Christian God.
Okay, just like that.
Yes, just like that.
But okay,
Which one are you supposed to? Which one ought you believe in? The true God, the Christian God.
Yeah. But there are many true gods.
There are?
Well, I don't believe in any.
I thought you were an atheist.
Yes, that's true. But if I were having this discussion with, let's say, another man who who is a professed Muslim, he would say that Allah was the only one true God. So you have to. I
Then
consider
he and I could debate it. And then I would tackle that and demonstrate that the God of Islam is internally incoherent and cannot be true because it's self-refuting.
Yeah, sure. And I guess that he would say the same thing. But
I would then say, wait. I would then say, show me how the Christian God is incoherent.
Mm-hmm.
But he can assert it, but demonstrating it is different. I can demonstrate the Islamic God is incoherent because it's self-refuting. But they cannot do that with the Christian one.
Mm-hmm.
The God of Islam is arbitrary and self-refuting. The God of Islam says you must, for example, you must obey the law. You must obey the things that will please him in order to get you into heaven. And that is right for God to require obedience. But yet what he does is God is arbitrary, because even inside of Islam, if you do all the things that God wants, that Allah wants, there's no guarantee whatsoever that you'll get to paradise, because Allah is arbitrary and may just decide, go away, you're going to hell. This is what Islam teaches. This means that on one hand, Allah says one thing about salvation and then contradicts himself when he says you can meet those standards and then you're wrong, you're going to go to hell anyway.
Yeah.
He's arbitrary.
Sure. Yes. Fair enough.
That's one of the ways. There's other ways to demonstrate he's not true.
Yeah, sure. Fair enough. I haven't read the entire Quran. I have read the entire Bible in Swedish, of course, and a long time ago. I have not reached the peak of my argument rate. I just want to clarify one thing. You only believe in one God, right?
Yeah, the only true God. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you don't believe in the other 10,000.
Right. What other 10,000? There aren't any other 10,000 gods.
Okay.
Why would you say there's other gods? I don't believe there's other gods.
No. But there are tens of thousands of other concepts of God. I guess.
Concepts. Yeah, there's concepts.
Yeah, sure.
So what? Concepts don't make it real.
Yeah. You just talked about Allah yourself, so I
yeah, the concept.
Yeah,
I was showing why their concept of God can't work. It's incoherent.
Okay, so you're an atheist towards 999.
No, if you want to define atheist as God. Are you defining atheism as an open denial of God, saying he does not exist?
Absolutely not.
Well, then why would you say I'm an atheist about Islam, since I said he does not exist, it cannot be?
Okay, so you're absolutely sure then?
Yeah, the God of Islam does not exist. It's a false God. It does not really exist. Okay, but if you say I'm an atheist regarding that God, well, wait a minute. If that's the kind of atheist that you're defining me as being, one who verbally and absolutely asserts that it doesn't exist, then that means that you are an atheist who verbally asserts that God himself, period, doesn't exist.
Well, there are of course different types of atheists, and you haven't asked me that question right. But you yourself say that you what? I'm sorry.
I'm using what you say, the way you use it. I told you that the God of Islam cannot exist. You said, oh, so now I'm an atheist to that God. Well, then what the definition is in that context is that I'm asserting he doesn't exist. So if that's the kind of atheist you are, you're asserting God doesn't exist.
Oh, okay.
If that's not the kind of atheist you are, then why would you apply that definition to me in regard to
that
Islam?
that was not the line of talk we had. I asked you if you believed in any God, and you said no. And then I said, so you're an atheist towards 9,999 one of them. And then you said, no, there is only one God. I'm sure that Islam is false. And then it was not me that I said that atheism per definition means that there is no God, because it isn't, at least not for me. Okay, moving on. Great. So, can you give me? Have you prayed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have any of your prayers come true?
Sometimes they are all answered. Every one of them.
Okay. I asked if any of them come true.
What do you mean come true?
Okay, come true. This might be my fault. This kind.
Okay, it's okay.
This might be a language barrier. Come true to me is that if let's say
some of the prayers I've asked have occurred in the way that I've asked. Yes.
Okay, so if you ask for X, then X comes.
Sometimes not.
Yeah, let's take just. Let's take a beer, for example. It's you ask for a beer, and you might get a beer right away. You might get a beer in a month. And you might get a beer in 10 years. Okay, that's what I mean when they come true. Okay, so some prayers come true. What kind of prayers? I have no idea what Christians ask for. What kind of prayers are you asking for?
Well, this is actually you are an answer to prayer, believe it or not.
Okay. I'm reading by thumping Maynard's comment here.
You are an answer to prayer. You are. You see, I've prayed to ask God to use me to share the truth with people who don't know Him and don't believe Him, and they deny Him. And so that prayer is being answered, and you're one of the answers of the prayer. So here we are.
Yeah, great. Is it always that? Do you have more trivial prayers? Like I've heard a lot of prayers come true. I've heard Veckel and Jim and others. I think it was. They ask for car keys to find their car keys, or if they're lost in the woods, they ask to find the way home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about it?
Yeah, I just most. There are kind of horrific things going on in the world. I guess you're aware of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
The famine, starvation, war.
Yes, that's because of people acting independently of God, acting like atheists. Because
I know.
They don't want to submit to His will and His word, and so they act in a manner inconsistent with God's will, and that's why we have suffering in the world.
Yeah, I know. If only Adam hadn't eaten that apple, right? But it's kind of strange that some prayers are so trivial that they seems so, to me anyway, so petty to God. So I feel it would be very strange for Him to interact in that kind of way. And
okay, you feel that, all right?
Yeah.
What you're feeling.
Yeah, but I'm not finished. So okay, thank you. So and in the other hand, you have there are 16,000 children dying every day from starvation, and there are even more people dying every month of horrible diseases.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, and so that's the reality of the world, and we can argue that. But most, I can almost say 99% of all those women, those mothers and fathers, of course, if they're not already dead, pray desperately for these fading away, hurt, sad, sorrow children. And they do it in the most religious, even Christian countries you can think of in the world. So it seems kind of strange to me that an wealthy American can sit in New York with a couple of 100,000 Swedish crowns. I don't know, 1 crown. I think $1 is 10 crowns in Sweden. Okay, so they are very wealthy, and it's all Merry Christmas and the turkey and everything, and they ask for a lost car key, and God gives it to them. And you have these illiterate tortured to death tens of thousands of children every day, and God doesn't answer them at all. It just.
Are you complaining about that?
I'm sorry, sir.
Are you complaining about that?
No.
Okay.
I ask you, how do you reconcile it?
What reconcile? Reconcile what? God answers prayers sometimes the way we want, and people suffer. There's no need to reconcile them.
I'm stunned. Are you making fun of me or something? Is it?
No, I want you to think. What you're trying to do, I think, is say that God, when He answers some prayers about a car key, and it's trivial, and yet people suffer, but He's not answering the prayers about their suffering. Why is that the case? From an atheistic perspective, what you're having to do is say that there must be a standard of righteousness, and that God, if He exists, ought to behave in a certain way. But as an atheist, you can't assume that as being true, because you don't believe God exists. You don't have any standard by which you can say this is how something ought to occur, a moral ought. You can't say that. All you're doing, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you, but all you're doing is you're saying that I believe, or excuse me, let me think about you. You're saying that you believe that God ought to answer prayers for keys and or also for children suffering. And He doesn't, so therefore you're not going to believe in Him. You're not going to consider that to be an evidence for God's existence, or an evidence that He is not there because He doesn't do what you think He ought to do. The question is, what makes you think that your definition of what God ought to do is really the right thing? This is a serious question. And I often get this with atheists, and I'll ask them this: why ought God behave in a manner that you think? And they don't realize that what they're doing is that they're stepping into the Christian perspective. And they're saying God ought to behave here this way, and then they step outside that perspective and say, but that's wrong. I think it's called the taxi cab fallacy. You get in, ride for a while, get out when you want, get back in when you want, and you play both sides. From an atheistic perspective, stay here. In an atheistic perspective, so what if people suffer in the world? So what? If you don't like it, okay, you don't like it, you don't have to like it, you could like it or not like it. It's irrelevant. It's not right or wrong, it's just suffering. If you want to say God, the God of Scripture, He ought to not do this, then you better step inside the God of Scripture's realm in the Bible and see what God has to say about it, and argue from inside that perspective and find out if He's consistent within that perspective or not consistent within the perspective. But you can't impose your value, which has no objective basis, upon God and say this is how it's supposed to be. The only way you can do that is to assume universal truth or universal moral truth outside of yourself, which you can't do as an atheist. You're ultimately being inconsistent in your own worldview, and you don't realize that. I've discussed this with atheists so many times over the years, that trying to show them that they are being inconsistent in the way they think, but they can't get it. I believe they can't get it is two reasons. One, they're spiritually blind, 1 Corinthians 2:14, and two, their atheistic presuppositions limit their ability to go very far rationally and see their problems in their own worldview and to see their inconsistencies. So what I do sometimes, and you're great at English, I mean, you're awesome. But what I do often with atheists who do what you do is I'll just wait to see how far they'll go and see if they can see the problems in their own understanding. Sometimes I'll give them the answer, and sometimes I won't, because I want to see if they're going to do any real thinking and philosophical thinking on this. They're raising philosophical issues, but they're not doing the homework that they need to do. Let me tell you something. A lot of times, the reason is I don't answer questions specifically and directly, and sometimes I do, with the atheist is because I'm doing research and I'm having the atheist help me do my research. I take notes on another screen over here. I have 4 monitors here running right now. I take notes about what atheists say and how they say it and what they do and their assumptions. You are helping me improve what it is I do, exposing the errors of atheism. Sometimes I'll just wait. Sometimes I'll just let you guys say what you want to say, because I want to see how far you're going to go and where you're going to go with what you do. But nevertheless, if you want to say that God should not torture babies, not torture, and you're saying that there is a moral ought, that God ought to answer to. But here's the question. Who are you as an atheist to say what ought to be done by God or by anybody? That's the question.
Is it my turn now?
Sure.
Yeah. There might be a language barrier here. I'm sorry. But I think you mistake me for some kind of fool. That was... no. Oh yes, you did, and you talked for 10 minutes about things you think that I believe or I hold. That is not the case at all. I can tell you right off the bat, I'm very educated. So that was a nice spin, by the way. Great, but I don't fall for it. I asked you a question. How you can't? Are you saying that you answer my question with 20 others? I asked you, how do you reconcile a found car key to profess the existence of that God when tens of thousands of mothers crying over their dying and starving children are not being answered? I asked you that question, how you reconcile. You cannot turn that to, oh, the atheist cannot answer that either.
Are you saying it's a contradiction?
We're not talking about the Bible.
Asking what you want. No. I'm asking what you are assuming so that I can respond to what you want. I already did respond, say there is no need. From what you've said and the way you've said it, there isn't a need. You see, reconcile what? Does God answer the prayers about car keys? Yes. Does he answer the prayers about tortured children? Yes. Do sometimes the answers get what people want? Yes. And sometimes not? Yes. What's the problem?
Well, he doesn't answer the prayers of the children. If they have malaria,
that means he doesn't exist.
No, when did I say that?
I'm just asking you. Is that what you're trying to get at?
No.
Then what are you trying to get at?
Okay. Again, the language barrier. It seems to me
no language barrier.
It seems to me kind of strange that you can talk to one person and then and you ask that person, why do you believe in? Oh, God answers my prayers. Okay, give me one of your prayers. Oh, I asked to find my car keys and I found them. Obviously, that could happen anyway, but let that slide. And then you have tens of thousands of parents crying and screaming out their pain and asking God to help them with starvation, and nothing happens. How do you reconcile that?
God doesn't answer the way they want. That's the answer.
Sorry. I'm so sorry if my English is that bad.
No, your English is fine. It's perfect. Don't worry about it. The question, you're doing it fine. I'm trying to tell you, there is no problem. God didn't answer them the way they wanted. What's the problem with that?
Well, I think that was quite amazing. I think from my perspective, unless the car keys belong to an HIV doctor who can save millions of lives, I guess the specific car key is less important than 25,000 children from my perspective.
You see, you're trying to make a point, an argument, but I'm just asking you, yeah, so God doesn't answer the prayers of these poor children who are suffering. He doesn't answer them the way they wanted them to be answered. So what's your point?
And I just told you.
Well, if you did, I missed it. Say it again. What is your point about that? Does that mean God doesn't exist?
No. No.
God's not fair? What? That prayers don't really count? What?
Well, I don't believe in him, so I can just speak hypothetically. But as I just said, unless the car keys belong to an HIV doctor who can save millions of lives, I guess the car key per se is less important than 25,000 tortured children to death. That's my perspective, and all you got to say to that is so what?
Well, you're not attaching it to anything. You're not drawing a conclusion. You're not making a statement about moral right or wrong and using this as support for anything.
Well, it's so you don't find that odd at all?
What? That God in His sovereignty will help me find my pair of car keys and won't sometimes answer the prayers of people who are suffering? And sometimes He does answer the prayers of those who are suffering?
No. And
I can't find my car keys? What's that prove? What's your point? What are you trying to say?
Well, to a lot of people, it's kind of strange, and
Why is it strange? Sometimes I can't find my car keys. I ask God, where are they? I can't find them for 2 hours. Well, I guess it doesn't exist. What?
But okay, I'm so sorry, but I really thought that I hope that the most people who listen to this consider 25,000 children to be more valuable than a car key.
Well, I would consider a mere set of car keys to not be as valuable as any individual.
Great.
But I can say that as a Christian. You can't, as an atheist, and defend it as being objectively true. I can say that car keys are not as good as valuable as a human being because humans are made in the image of God, Genesis 1:26. You're an atheist. People just evolved. So if they just happen to suffer and die, that's just your evolved preference. No, it's okay. It doesn't mean it's morally right or wrong.
I'm so glad that you value humans more than car keys. And again, nice spin. You told me things about me that you have absolutely no idea of knowing if they're true. That you can be an atheist and not believe in evolution. So that
believe in evolution?
No, I accept the fact of evolution. So. Yeah,
all right, we're gonna move on because I don't want to tackle another when we have people waiting. So three evidence for you. Just say one more statement and then we're gonna move on.
It's not three evidence. It's evidence. It's in turned like yeah. So it's just evidence for you. And I thank you, Matthew, for the talk. I'm sorry if the language was so bad. So.
No problem, man. You're great at English. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.